Hello and welcome to the first ever classical game of Garry Kasparov from the times when the 13th world champion was only 10 years old. So this game was played in a youth tournament in Kiev. His opponent is Vasilyenko, and we actually don't even know this person's first name, so I couldn't even upload a picture or actually look up who this chess player was. And this game was played in 1973, so Kasparov was born in 1963, so Kasparov was only 10 years old at this point. And we will see that already at 10 years old, Kasparov really knew how to play chess. So let's get started with the game. Kasparov made the move e4, actually the move that he more or less stick to throughout his whole career, and this was also sort of his well, at least one of the reasons why he lost his world championship at the end to Kramnik is that Kramnik played the so-called Berlin defense. This is not what's going to happen here. So the so-called Berlin, and Kasparov was not able to crack this. So, but let's go back to 1973 and let's see the game. So e6 was the move, so French, d4, d5, knight d2, knight c6, actually a move that's quite popular these days as well. Black tries to fight for the center quite quickly, hoping to sort of a quick e5 break. Knight gf3, and here comes the strange move from Kasparov's opponent, knight h6. So he puts his knight to the center of the board, and the plan could be something that taking an e5 and then try to play the knight f5 move. So now Kasparov makes the move e5, with the idea that if you put your knight too quickly here, then white just plays c3, and then g4 could be a potential way to chase away this knight. And of course e5 wins some space in the center, so white should be doing alright. Black immediately plays f6, fighting for the center. So attacking here, comes bishop b5, bishop d7. So here there is a nice trick that Kasparov's opponent set up. So knight takes e5 is a threat. So let's say you just castle. The knight takes e5 is actually a threat, because bishop d7 you can take back with the knight. And black just won a pawn. But still actually white has quite some counterplay here. But so in principle the threat is knight takes e5. Kasparov makes the move bishop c6. So gives up the pair of bishop. But after bishop c6, knight b3, for the time being he has a good control over the dark squares, very important. e4, e5, d4, also f4 square. And well, now there is a huge threat of taking on knight h6. Black plays the logical move knight f7, also putting some pressure on e5, and here comes bishop f4. And actually if we stop here for a second, well, white made quite reasonable moves, but he gave up the pair of bishops, so we could actually see that black is not in a huge danger at all. So any normal move of developing bishop b5 looks like a very natural move, cutting off the white king from castling. Or there is some very active moves like g5 and trying to immediately create counterplay. So after both of these moves, or any natural moves like queen d7, black is actually doing quite fine. But here black makes a huge strategical mistake. He makes the move f5. And the big mistake with f5 is that you have the pairs of bishops, so both of these bishops you still have, but you are actually closing the center and closing the position, which is obviously bad for the bishops. So after f5, black gives over, or hands over quite some dark squares, especially g5 and f4, and we will see that white is going to have a considerable advantage after this. Now comes a nice move from Kasparov, h4, taking care of this g5 square, so no g5 break ever coming from black, and just in general controlling the dark squares. Bishop e7, queen d2, further pressure on g5, b6, c3, bishop b7, so nice moves, bishop e3. And the point behind bishop e3 is a very nice maneuver that Kasparov had in mind. His plan is to reroute his knight, which on b3 looks very, very odd, reroute via c3, or c1, d3 or e2, and goes to the f4 square where this knight would be beautifully placed. Comes queen d7, and Kasparov is immediately going after his plan. We place knight c1. Now comes bishop a6, and Kasparov does not yet want to go further with his knight, so after knight goes d3 or e2, black would most likely just capture this and eliminate this dangerous knight. So white plays the move rook h3, and again a very usual maneuver in the French in this structure. White wants to play the move rook g3 and putting some pressure on the g file. So here comes queen b5, and it's important even if you're playing a very positional position, you should still keep your eyes on some tactical stuff. So do not blunder mate in 1. And the way that Kasparov defended against this was knight e2, offering a massive trade. And his opponent actually took the opportunity to simplify the position. So here came queen takes e2 check, and takes king d2. And we can see that this position is actually very uncomfortable for black. His knight on f7 is pretty passive, his bishop on e7 is also quite passive, but mainly white has a very nice grip on in the center, and he has a huge space advantage. So comes castle, and here Kasparov makes a strange decision. So I'm pretty sure that later in his career he would have made a different move. So here white has really a huge advantage, he has all the space, so he could just slowly improve his position and yeah, essentially just suffocate black. So normal moves like a4, b4, even rook g1 and then pushing g4 is quite a natural way to continue. But here Kasparov went for a sort of a tactical solution. It made the move knight g5, which looks quite strange at first because you are exchanging pieces while you have the space advantage, which is usually not what people advise. But the idea by knight g5 is that if you take, which you absolutely have to, also you're threatening to take on e6, so black has no other move than just taking on g5. When you take back with the pawn, you're actually creating a further weakness in the black's position, this h7 pawn. And you can just double up on this pawn and you will be doing pretty well. So here comes black. He plays the move rook f8 with the plan of pushing f4. So white has to play g3, g6, double, and rook h6. So the plan is that black is going to defend by rook f7 and rook g7. So comes rook h6 and doubling, and black obviously doesn't overlook the threat of rook g6 because he's pinned along this h file, plays the move rook g7. And here comes the sort of another phase of the game. Now white put all his pieces at the best squares, is putting a lot of pressure against this h7 pawn, but still the game is not yet won. So white has to do something else, and he has to basically open up the position further. So he plays the move queen f3, king d7, and g4. So opening up the f file, takes, king e8. And here Kasparov realized that he cannot solely win the game on the king side, he has to do something on the queen side as well. So he starts pushing pawns there, further increasing his space advantage. Comes a6, a4, king b7, b5, a5, and here comes the opening move, the move that breaks the position, c4, and after this essentially black's position is well, pretty much not savable. So now white is going to open up the position, these rooks are going to be just super horrible, the white king is going to be a very dominant piece, and actually very quickly white is going to be able to just break through. So black took the pawn, came rook c1, rook e8, takes on c4, bishop d8, just a passing move. Now Kasparov manages to even further develop and improve his position, so the king goes to e4, preparing d5. Black is very passive here, and after this white manages to play d5, and it's quite clear that black is going to be just simply suffocated. Takes, rook e8, e6, king c8, and after bishop d4, white is going to take one pawn. So now white is up simply just one pawn, but his space advantage is so huge, his pieces are so active that actually black already resigned here. So yeah, this was Kasparov's first game in the databases, his first ever rated game. He was only 10 years old, and he actually put up quite a decent game, I would say. This is well, there's a reason why he became world champion later on. Yeah, so this concludes this game, and I want to inform you that I actually made other videos about other top players as well from their childhood. So I already made a video about Magnus Carlsen, a game where he was actually 10 years old. That's also quite interesting, so I suggest you to check it out. And Otherwise, see you in the next video.